We all have our own stories about how we first discovered Halo. And of course, some of our stories are more interesting and eventful than others, and today I wanted to share my story of how I got into Halo. And yeah, it's not that amazing of a story, but I wanted to share it anyway. So let's start from the very beginning. My first gaming console was the PlayStation 1, which I either got for Christmas or my birthday. I believe it was Christmas. I was playing the PlayStation 1 for a while. My first couple games I played on it were just the basics, your Dig Dug and Pac-Man, things like that. But later on I established a love for platformer type games, things like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro. More so Spyro than Crash Bandicoot. I was in love with Spyro. About a year or two later, I got the PlayStation 2. And honestly, maybe it wasn't even that long. Sometimes when I think back on certain events, I actually think they were longer than they actually were. But I think it was about a year or two after I got the PS1 that I finally got the PlayStation 2. And my god, that was a memorable console. And I believe I've played more games on the PlayStation 2 than any other console combined. I mean, the only consoles I've ever had was the PS1, the PS2, the 360, and the Xbox One. Once I got the PlayStation 2, I stuck with that thing for a while. I was playing all kinds of different games. I had this weird thing back in the day where I wanted to play every game that existed that had a gun in it. And the reason I say that had a gun in it and not just a shooter, because it didn't even have to be a shooter. As long as the game had a gun, I felt this need to play it. It was the weirdest fucking thing. Like, that was my goal. Let's play every game with a gun in it. It was so fucking weird. But there were some exceptions to that rule. Like, if the game had like a cartoony art style, I didn't want to play it. That was excluded. It was the weird. My mind worked in weird ways back then. Now, during the time when the PlayStation 2 was still the newest console that I owned, that is when I discovered Halo. And it was my friend who told me about this game. And it's hard to remember exactly how everything played out, but I just remember when I was over his house, there was times where he would tell me about this game called Halo, and he would tell me about how one of his friends has this game. And one day, that friend of my friend, who owned an Xbox and Halo 1, he brought it over to my friend's house. And I only remember bits and pieces of this day, but I do remember that my friend had multiple other friends over that day. One of the friends was the one who owned Halo and the Xbox and brought that over. Well, it was actually two of them. They were brothers. But I remember everyone huddled around the TV, and they were all taking turns playing the game, Halo 1, the campaign. They might have played multiplayer. I don't remember that. I just remember campaign. I never got a turn. I was the youngest one there. And I just remember like standing behind everybody and like looking in between people and looking over shoulders trying to get a glimpse at the TV, because everyone was like huddled around the TV, and back then TVs were small. And the one image of the game that I saw that sticks in my head is they were in a Ghost on the mission Assault on the Control Room out in the snow. Like, I remember that, a Ghost in the snow. Like that's the one image I remember in my head looking back. But from what I saw, I was blown away, and I wanted to play more than anything, but like I said, unfortunately I didn't get the chance. So that was the day that I seen Halo for the first time. And after that day, that was kind of it for a while when it came to Halo. For me anyways. I didn't see anything Halo again for a while. I obviously couldn't get the game because I didn't have an Xbox, and I just went back to playing my PlayStation 2 games. And I just did that for a while. Man, the PlayStation 2 is just such a memorable console for me. It really was. And I didn't even have like the ability to play online for the games that did support it. I was just playing single player games like a lot of us were back then. So now this is where the story gets a little fuzzy. I'm pretty sure my friend who I hung out with regularly at the time, I'm pretty sure he had gotten a Xbox and Halo 1 before I did, in which I would have been playing the hell out of it over his house. But the oldest memory I have of playing Halo 1 was when I first got Halo 1. I don't remember playing it for the first time before I got the game myself, which is weird because like I was over at my friend's house all the time then. If he had gotten Halo 1 before me, which I'm almost positive he did, I would have been playing it a ton. So that was probably the case. I just can't remember it. He got an Xbox and Halo 1 before I did, and I probably played it a bunch with him at that time. I just can't fucking remember it. I remember us playing the game together, I do, but I thought that was after I had already gotten it for myself, but I can't say for sure. So anyways, like I said, PlayStation 2, I had that console for a while. At least I think it was a while. Like I said, maybe it wasn't as long as I remember it. Well then, in 2006, for I believe my 11th birthday, something rather strange happened. my dad one day, he out of nowhere, he asked me if I wanted to go get the new console at the time, which was the Xbox 360. This was for my birthday. I remember getting home from school one day. He was in the backyard. I went out to see him, and he asked me that. Like, he just said, "Hey, you want to get that new console that's out?" or something like that, which really caught me off guard because I don't remember even asking to get that console because that was just out of the realm of possibility at the time. I didn't think that was an option. I thought I was just stuck with the PS2. And this really caught me off guard because like my parents, they were kind of the type to be like, "Oh, you don't need that new Xbox. You got Xbox at home." And then Xbox at home is just the PlayStation 2. So it was really, really strange that he would ask me that, especially when I don't even think I was asking him for it. So either later that day or the next day, he took me to Best Buy and I picked out an Xbox 360 and Halo 1 and Halo 2. Which, I know that's kind of weird. My first two games for the Xbox 360 were original Xbox games. But holy shit. I was getting a brand new console, the Xbox 360. I never even had an original Xbox. Never had one ever. I upgraded from the PS2 to an Xbox 360 and Halo 1 and Halo 2. That was amazing. Like, you gotta understand how excited I was at that fucking time. That was incredible. Especially when I didn't even see that coming. And like I said, I wasn't even asking for a new console at that time. I wasn't asking for Halo 1 or Halo 2 because I didn't think they'd get it for me. But it happened. There it was. I acquired Halo for the first time. So when I got home, I did what any kid would do who just got a new console and Halo. I immediately hooked that motherfucker up and popped Halo 1 inside. And I started playing Halo. And like I said, my memory of this is that was the first time I played Halo. But I probably played it with my friend over his house before this. But I don't remember that. So as I was playing the first mission of Halo 1, I remember this clearly. When I got to the part where Captain Keyes, he gives you the Magnum, after he gives you the pistol, when you exited the cockpit, there were 3 grunts standing out there in the hallway. I believe it was 3. And I still remember this to this day. As soon as I started shooting and killing those grunts, I had to pause the game and walk away because I was literally overwhelmed with excitement. It's possible I had an orgasm but just didn't know it at the time. I was so excited just by that little encounter there that I actually had to get up and walk away from the game for a second because like it was a brand new console. I got this brand new awesome looking controller in my hand and I'm playing one of the best games ever. So from that moment onward, I continued to play Halo 1. I played through the campaign and I would play multiplayer with my friend when I went over his house, and we would also play co-op campaign. So then, after completing the Halo 1 campaign, I went on to play Halo 2. And I gotta say, at that time, I did favor Halo 1. Like, Halo 1 was my preferred game at the time. I did like it a significant amount more than Halo 2 at that time. Now that's changed. Now I rather play Halo 2 than Halo 1. And I'm talking mainly just the campaign, because that's really all I was playing at that time was the campaign. But I would play multiplayer when I went over to my friend's house. But I think I even preferred the Halo 1 multiplayer as well. But I'm mainly talking about the campaign. And if you compare the Halo 1 campaign to the Halo 2 campaign, they are considerably different from one another. There's definitely a different vibe in each campaign. And at that time, I was a bigger fan of the more simplistic game that was Halo CE. But like I said, that's not the case anymore. I honestly think Halo 2 has the best campaign in the series. But back then, I liked Halo 1 more. And honestly, I may have even... I can't say for sure, because my memory is fucking shot, which I hate that. I've always had a good memory up until a couple years ago. But I may have even stopped playing Halo 2's campaign to go back and replay Halo 1's campaign. I know I replayed Halo 1's campaign a bunch after completing 2, but I may have even stopped halfway through 2 to go back and play 1. But as much as I loved Halo 1 and 2, I didn't sit there and replay the campaigns over and over again. Like, I definitely replayed the campaigns, but I'm talking when I first beat Halo 1 and 2, I'm not entirely sure how many times I replayed those games over and over again before moving on to a different game. Because at that time, like I said, I was in this weird mindset where I wanted to play every game with a gun in it, and that was still my goal at the time that I played Halo. So it wasn't long after I played Halo 1 and 2 for the first time that I went back to just playing some random shooters that you never even heard of. Like, there was some weird game for the PS2 called Conflict Desert Storm, and I believe that was the first game that I played after playing Halo 1 and 2. And like, that game was like absolute dog shit. Like, it was like a really shitty version of SOCOM. Like, you couldn't even fathom somebody choosing that game when they have Halo 1 and 2 sitting in front of them. But like I said, I had this weird mindset where I wanted to play every game with a gun. It was like a mission of mine. It was fucking stupid. So yeah, anyways, I got my Xbox 360, I had Halo 1 and 2, I played them a couple times, and then I was just back to playing random games. And it wasn't until Halo 3 came out that I got Xbox Live. So it wasn't like playing Halo 2 online was an option for me at that time. I was just playing all these random single-player games. But as I was playing all these different single-player games, I would still play Halo multiplayer when I went over my friend's house on weekends. So that's my story of how I got into Halo. But I want to continue the story because up next, we got my favorite game of all time. So after having played Halo 1 and 2 a bit, and playing all these other random games, eventually I got Xbox Live for the Xbox 360. And I can't remember exactly how long after I got my Xbox 360 that I got Xbox Live, but it was a bit of time. And what was so sad about having Xbox Live is I didn't think I was able to play original Xbox games online on an Xbox 360. That's what I thought, because I remember popping in Halo 2 one day and I wanted to play it online, and I was greeted with some message, and I guess I misinterpreted the message, and I thought it meant I wasn't able to play Halo 2 online on the Xbox 360. So I didn't. And I played other games like Gears of War, which I was never any good at Gears of War. I played Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter online, which, by the way, is where I met my first Xbox Live friend. But I was playing all these different games over Xbox Live, and I could have been playing Halo 2 that whole time. I could have been a part of that era playing Halo 2 matchmaking. Like, I had all the tools there in front of me to make it happen. I would have loved to have played it, and I thought that you couldn't play original Xbox games online on the Xbox 360, which wasn't the case. So I missed out, took an L on that one. But then it was Halo 3 time. I remember seeing all the ads on TV I was looking up trailers and Vidocs on YouTube, and I was watching all these other random videos people made about Halo 3 that got me excited for the launch of the game. So when Halo 3 finally launched, the plan was for my mom to pick the game up for me on her way home from work one day. And I believe she went to Best Buy, which they were sold out, obviously. But the next day she went back and checked again, and they did have the game this time. So I got Halo 3 the day after launch. Didn't get it day 1, but I got it day 2. And yeah, that was it, man. That was it. When I got Halo 3, then I was hooked. After playing Halo 3, that's when it became, okay, Halo all day, every day. And I'm still playing Halo 3 today. Not as much as I used to, but I still play it. And I know many of you can say the same thing. So the first thing I did when I got Halo 3 was play the campaign. I was big on single player at that time. And it's very possible that I played through the Halo 3 campaign multiple times before touching multiplayer, but I don't know for sure. But I played the Halo 3 campaign a bunch. Like, I was beating it and then just restarting the campaign and playing through it again. I would do all the Easter eggs and the secrets, and there was times where you know what I loved to do in the Halo 3 campaign back in the day? There are times where I would just love to start up a mission and try to find my way out of the map. I wouldn't look up a tutorial or anything. I would just try to figure it out on my own. And I would just explore the missions, see where I could go, where I couldn't. And, that kept me occupied for a while. And sometimes I did manage to break out of the map and go pretty far and discover some interesting things. I loved playing the Halo 3 campaign. The Halo 3 campaign was my favorite campaign, although I'd say Halo 2's campaign is the best. But what I'm showing on screen right now, this is my game history for campaign on Bungie.net. As you can see, I have many different play sessions of the Halo 3 campaign, and there's multiple different pages here. And some of these missions that you're seeing listed here, some of these I was in there for hours. And this is only one account, but to be fair, this account is where I played the majority of the campaign. And maybe this doesn't even seem like a lot to you. Maybe it's not a lot. I know some people just played through the campaign once and then just sat in multiplayer for the rest of their time. And I am curious, let me know in the comments if you have more games in your campaign history on Bungie.net. Like, as you can see right here, I have 9 pages, 208 different items. So 208 different sessions across 9 pages. If you have more than that, let me know. I'm not claiming this is an insane amount. I know people are gonna have more than me, but it's just that looking back, I am surprised I played as much campaign in Halo 3 as I did, because I'm pretty much strictly multiplayer now. Like, I'm pretty confident I've spent more time in the Halo 3 campaign than all the other Halo games combined. I'm almost positive that's the case. So like I said, after Halo 3 launched, I was hooked, and I wasn't really playing many other games anymore. That whole goal of playing every game with a gun in it, yeah, that was out the fucking window. All I wanted to do was play Halo, and so I did. There was one moment where I did go and play Call of Duty 4 when that dropped. I stopped playing Halo for a little bit. I didn't take as long of a break as I thought I did, but yeah, I went and I played some COD 4, and then I came back to Halo. But yeah, I've been playing Halo 3 ever since, to this day, and many of you could say the same thing. But the next game in the Halo series is obviously Halo Reach. And Halo Reach was a really exciting game for me, because this was the first Halo game to release since I've really been invested in Halo. Like I said, I played Halo 1 and 2 and loved them, but I wasn't grinding them. I moved on and played other games after them. It wasn't until Halo 3 that I became addicted to Halo. So I remember the months leading up to Halo Reach's release, I remember seeing ads on TV. Halo Reach was in one of the Game Informers, and I remember staring at the pictures in that Game Informer for so fucking long. I remember in one of the Bungie weekly updates, they included these like sound bites of weapon sounds. I think it was just weapon sounds from Halo Reach. And one of the sounds was for the Halo Reach plasma launcher, which has a pretty complex sound. I mean, between charging it up, shooting all the little plasma balls, and hearing them explode, I was like, what the fuck could this be? And I also remember watching some of the trailers, the Vidocs for Halo Reach on YouTube, or actually I think I watched them on my Xbox. I think that's the same case for Halo 3. I watched the Vidocs and the trailers on the Xbox 360. But yeah, I was so excited for Halo Reach. Probably more excited than the launch of any other game. Because Halo 3 was my favorite game, and that was the glory days of Halo. That's when I was the most interested in Halo. And I enjoyed damn near everything about Halo 3. I was playing it all day, every day. And here we go, a new Halo game was finally coming out. So you can imagine why I was excited as I was. And then it finally happened. September 14th, 2010, Halo Reach dropped. And Halo Reach was the first midnight release I've ever been to. I went to a midnight release for the GameStop in my local mall, and it was just such an exciting time. I miss midnight releases. I think, do they still have midnight releases? I'm not sure they do, but even if they did, they're kind of pointless because you can just get it digitally. But yeah, that was my first midnight release, and the line was so fucking long. We had to wait in a while, but I didn't mind because I was so excited. And I remember, there was this long line going down this hallway, and I couldn't. The GameStop was around the corner, like at the end of the line, so I couldn't see the GameStop. But you saw people coming out with their Halo Reach, and I remember some people, they were carrying their big Legendary Edition, and people were like cheering for them and shit. That was a great time. It's fun being young and playing Halo, and those times are gone, and they're never coming back. And yeah, the future is just dark and miserable, and we're all doomed. But anyways, we're not talking about the future, we're talking about the past. So finally, after waiting in that line for a while, I got my Halo Reach Legendary Edition. I did get the Legendary Edition, the big crate. And the main thing that sold me on that was the flaming helmet that came with it. Because flaming helmet, that was sought after in Halo 3 for so long. Well, I mean, most people wanted the Recon helmet in Halo 3, but the flame was like the next step up. But anyways, I got Halo Reach, I went home and did what anybody would do who just got a new Halo game. I popped it in the Xbox 360 and began playing. And I actually had my very first game of Halo Reach saved, which was a custom game on Reflection. And I also have my first matchmaking game saved as well, which was on Powerhouse. And you know, I did play the Halo Reach beta, so I already knew from that I wasn't the biggest fan of Reach. There was a point where I stopped playing the beta and went back to playing Halo 3, which I kind of regret, man. I should have spent more time playing the beta. So I kind of knew what I was getting myself into when I was playing Halo Reach on launch night. But unfortunately, I didn't get to play much on launch night because my fucking power went out. And what a fucking buzzkill that was. I was so excited for this game. My first midnight release, had the Legendary Edition, and my fucking power went out. I was so pissed. And so that was it for that night. I had to go to sleep because the power wasn't coming back on, and continued playing the next day. And yeah, that's kind of where the story ends. Obviously, I continued to buy and play new Halo games, but there's really nothing else interesting or somewhat unique to discuss. I just played a ton of Halo from there on out. Played a ton of Reach, not as much as Halo 3, but I did play a good amount of it. And I played less of Halo 4 and then less of Halo 5, and now I don't play much at all. And it's probably going to be a whole fucking 6 years before we get Halo Infinite. Will Halo Infinite revive my will to play Halo back to what it once was? Probably not. Listen, I was saying for a while that I think Halo Infinite will be 343's best Halo game, and that's still possible, but I don't think it's going to be great. I don't. I do believe we will see a record amount of people playing Halo Infinite when it finally comes out, because for one, it's a massive title. It was supposed to be a launch title for the Xbox Series X. I believe they have the Halo Infinite image on the back of the Series X box. And you know, people have been awaiting this game for a while now. The multiplayer is going to be free to play. So I do think there's a pretty good chance that Halo Infinite will break a record of most concurrent players on a Halo game. But even if that is the case, that isn't indicative of the quality of that game. Like I said, it's a big title, its multiplayer is free to play, and I mean, gaming's bigger than it's ever been, and also, if we're still doing this whole quarantine thing when Halo Infinite drops, then that's another reason a lot of people are going to be playing it. But as I said, that's pretty much the end of my story. We all have our own stories. I know mine's not that unique, but it's something I wanted to share. Hopefully you found this interesting. If not, then this was just a massive waste of time. But I appreciate those of you who listened. Feel free to leave a comment. It's safe to say that the best days of Halo are gone. At least for me anyways, and I'm sure many of you as well. But you know what they say, be glad it happened. Wait, what do they say? They say don't be sad it's over, be glad it happened, or some shit like that. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'll just sit here in these miserable times and be glad that those days are over and never coming back. Yay. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.